as part of the 1,200-strong advance commando force. The troops would be among the first to enter the province in the event of a peace deal. But larger units will stay in Macedonia as a backup, maintaining communications and helping the refugees.
Peacekeepers are ready to go into Kosovo within 2 days. They were today reinforced by these Gurkha troops from Britain, whose Prime Minister hosting the air, but on the ground far from it. Guerrillas of the Kosovo Liberation Army have been engaging the Serbs and taking casualties. But the KLA has said it's ready to pledge not to attack Serb troops if and when they leave the province. The if and the when, two questions which only Belgrade can answer. Jim Fish, BBC News.
The B-52s, two of them, came up through Albanian airspace in mid-afternoon. Just above the border, they let go their bombs. The warplanes passed over their target twice, attacking both times. The bombs landed on an area where there have been heavy exchanges of fire between the Kosovo Liberation Army and the Serbs.
Well, NATO's keeping up the pressure just as it said it would. The question now is whether the politicians and the diplomats can bring that pressure to bear.
NATO commander General Sir Mike Jackson arrived at the tent encampment on the border, expecting action at last from the Serbs. Yugoslavia's military chiefs have had 2 days to mull over the alliance's demands for a speedy troop withdrawal from Kosovo. NATO's in no mood for further prevarication, though many details of the withdrawal plan still have to be worked out. The talks have been given new momentum following agreement earlier at the G8 meeting on the way forward to peace. Sealed with the NATO-bombed oil refineries near Belgrade and further afield, targets spared while peace talks have been underway, a foretaste of what will follow if President Milosevic stalls again. Graham Leach, Sky News.
Yugoslav casualties have been mounting steadily as U.S. B-52s carpet-bomb Serb troop concentrations in Kosovo. And the Pentagon says there are indications after 11 weeks and thousands of deaths, Yugoslavia may have had enough.
We are just beginning to see signs of preparation for withdrawal. We have not yet seen any withdrawal.
NATO has given in to one Yugoslav demand, that Serb forces be allowed more than a week to pull out. But NATO has also told Yugoslav military leaders they must get their 40,000 troops out quickly using designated assembly areas, retreat routes, and exit points to ensure they are not attacked by NATO or the Kosovo Liberation Army.
The KLA has already agreed not to attack the Serb troops as they're leaving.
As soon as the Serb troops evacuate key zones in the south, NATO will order a pause in the bombing. Some 20,000 NATO troops will then fly into Kosovo, establishing 5 zones of responsibility. British troops will be the first in, taking over central Kosovo.
Everybody agrees that we don't want a security vacuum in Kosovo.
NATO helicopters will land on mountaintops to secure the high ground as the vanguard of a force that will eventually number 50,000 troops moves in. 1,900 U.S. Marines will travel from their ships in the Aegean through Greece to a staging area just north of Skopje, Macedonia. They will be joined by 1,700 U.S. Army troops that will move from Albania to Macedonia, along with their tanks, artillery, and 8 Apache attack helicopters.
Helicopters to take high ground and moving the main force by road. 1,900 U.S. Marines could come ashore in Greece as early as tomorrow morning and be in Kosovo before the week is out, joined by 1,700 U.S. Army troops, including 8 of the Apache helicopters now in Albania. Ultimately, there will be 7,000 U.S. troops in Kosovo.
Continue to target those forces on the ground until they start to withdraw. Bettina?
Thank you, Patricia. Kelly. Juanito? Yeah, well, Charles, here's Sarge off.
We're told that some of them are on the way up to Belgrade for discussions there at what was said to be a very high level. So we assume that they're going to see Mr. Milosevic. The American delegation left. General Jackson is still here, but his helicopter has just come in to pick him up, so he'll be leaving shortly, and I imagine he's very, very frustrated and angry because he wanted all this over with very...
There, which are called Centuros. They had them in Somalia. We've seen them operating before. They're really forward reconnaissance vehicles, but they're very powerful, and they are almost the furthest north that NATO has forces here. They are almost eyeball to eyeball with the Serbs. We also were today with the British Army. They've got artillery batteries.
Guarded optimism that the end was in sight, that Yugoslav generals were ready to accept what's termed the military technical agreement, the blueprint for the withdrawal of Belgrade's 40,000 troops and police from Kosovo. Acceptance of the agreement is supposed to set in train a series of events that will lead eventually to the deployment of peacekeepers in Kosovo. NATO sources had said, though, the Yugoslavs were insisting the bombing stop before they'd sign up, something the alliance said was unacceptable.
And General Stefanovic have signed the agreement on behalf of the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, and that I have signed on behalf of NATO. Under the terms of the agreement, once it has been confirmed to the Secretary General of NATO that the Yugoslav forces have complied with the initial withdrawal required of its forces from Kosovo, that he will direct the suspension of the airstrikes. I have made it clear that if subsequently the withdrawal timetable is breached, the agreement requires the air operation to resume. It is tragic.
The Yugoslav border tonight said the agreement provides for the withdrawal of Serb forces from Kosovo and the return of refugees. In effect, it ends the war.
NATO's resolve in conducting a sustained air campaign has finally achieved this agreement.
For those who signed it and praised Slobodan Milosevic for achieving it.
Well, during these negotiations, we showed that we are really for peace.
The deal tonight ended a 24-hour marathon meeting, the fourth in a series of on and off talks.
The British NATO commander here had said it was his plan when the talks resumed to just put a document down on the table and tell the Serb generals, now sign it.
But each time the Serbs came to NATO's tent, sources say they wanted to discuss the definition of every word on the 6-page document NATO called non-negotiable. The plan now is for British airborne troops to cross the border first, once the Serbs start pulling out. Heavy armor will be right behind, and NATO says it's more than ready. Richard Roth, CBS News, Komanovo, Macedonia.
In Belgrade tonight.
It was signed. A satellite photo showed the Serbs marshaling tractor-trailer trucks for the pullout. They have 11 days to complete the withdrawal, pulling out in phases along designated routes and through designated exit points.
Within 1 day of the signing of the agreement, which was today, we will have a demonstrable withdrawal of troops from the northern area here.
As soon as NATO can verify the withdrawal has begun, NATO would officially suspend the already reduced bombing, possibly as soon as tomorrow.
If the Serbs honor
Serb forces unleashed a volley of gunfire. It appears to be a final rampage of destruction by the Serbs before they pull out of the ethnic Albanian capital.
Will move in many cases simultaneously. First of all, the Yugoslav army has to show it is moving out of Kosovo, although it is expected to be given longer than the 7 days originally demanded. NATO says it believes the Serbs are getting ready to go, and it's possible the first withdrawals could happen more or less straight away. Some reports suggest NATO troops could move in within 24 hours of the first movements. NATO's bombing campaign would also end more quickly than had originally been thought. It will be timed to coincide with proof of Serb troop movements. However, NATO has still warned that the sword of Damocles, as it was put, still hangs over the Serbs if they fail to move out.
These are the kind of troops Russia is likely to send to Kosovo, paratroopers from the Pskov Airborne Division, some of the best trained forces Moscow can muster, men who've served in Bosnia and hotspots in Russia's own territory. Moscow has not yet committed to joining the international peacekeeping operation in Kosovo, but planning is underway. Russian Defense Minister Marshal Igor Sergeyev says Moscow could contribute from 2,500 to 10,000 troops.
In Kosovo itself, gunfire greeted the news from over the border in Macedonia. The motive for the shots fired in Pristina was not clear. One politician sacked by President Milosevic during the conflict was mixed about Yugoslavia's military agreement.
Kosovo Liberation Army calls Delta Force. The men are well equipped, their morale is high, and they believe their mission is to free their homeland. They moved off to the front line in the mountains inside Kosovo, which they hope will soon be their own independent state. Aber, who spent 9 years in America, is one of the fighters. A Serb shell landed. For Aber, this war is personal. His family's somewhere in Kosovo.
My father, my mother, my two sisters, younger brother, and my niece. It's hard for me because it's been 2 months and I don't know nothing about them.
Men like Aber believe that victory will be just as much theirs as NATO's because they've been on the ground, fighting and dying. The plan is to disarm. They are novice soldiers. NATO can easily control them. But these men are heroes to their people. They want independence fast. If the West doesn't, there could be trouble ahead. Jeremy Bowen, BBC News, on the Kosovo.
Expected to be in position within 5 days or so. And the First Army ground forces expected to leave Germany overnight to fly on C-17s to be ready to move forward to the U.S. sector of Kosovo as part of the peace agreement.
It's a sound agreement.
Almost 4,000 U.S. soldiers and Marines will move into eastern Kosovo within days if Yugoslavia is good to its word.
If the Serbs live up to what they have signed, this will end the killing and begin the peace.
Job one for the NATO peacekeepers will be clearing mines to open the way for food convoys. Also working alongside the NATO troops in the days to come, forensic experts investigating suspected war crimes. The Pentagon has released a new satellite photograph. Firm evidence, it says, Yugoslavia may have covered up atrocities. A May 15th photograph shows 143 graves at Izbica, where smuggled videotape also documents a mass execution of ethnic Albanians. But this photo from a week ago shows the bodies may have been dug up and moved.
It is difficult to be completely clear about what happened, but it looks as if a bulldozer or other earth-moving equipment has been run over where the individual graves used to be.
On what could well be the last day of the war, U.S. B-52s again raked Serb troop concentrations with dozens of 500-pound bombs. More than 10,000 NATO air attacks over 78 days killed thousands of Serb troops. Hundreds of tanks, dozens of warplanes were destroyed, along with airfields, bridges, factories, refineries, and at least 3 of President Slobodan Milosevic's presidential homes.
I'd say from
smarting from its failure to halt the NATO bombing. Its humiliation is made worse because the weak Russian economy is propped up by the West. If the underfunded Russian army was placed under NATO command, it would be a domestic loss.
Indeed, we are. This morning, they are finally here after some delay. The U.S. Marines have finally now hit the beach. As you can see, the very first 2 amphibious assault vehicles are now on the beach here near the village of Letohoro in Greece. They are framed against perhaps the backdrop of Mount Olympus. This is a force of about 2,200 U.S. Marines that will make landfall here on the shores of Greece and then begin a 175-mile ride on through the north of Greece and into Macedonia. This is the 26th Marine Expeditionary Force. As we said, about 2,200 Marines that do a variety of things that will participate in this peacekeeping effort. As we said, there had been some initial delays. The first delay was with the Greek government not granting permission to come ashore, and then, of course, the delay in the talks between NATO and the government of Yugoslavia to work out the final details. Everyone wanting it to be certain that these folks would be peacekeepers and not perhaps turn into an invasion force at some point. That seems now fairly certain, and they are on the beach. The first 1, 2, 3 amphibious assault vehicles are now on the beach, and a whole host of them are coming. There are 3 U.S. ships that will carry all of them. Mark, I don't know if we're able to see out there. You can see the whole string of amphibious assault vehicles that are now coming from the USS Ponce. The USS Gunston Hall will also deploy, as well as the big ship in the convoy, the USS Kearsarge. That is the largest amphibious assault ship in the U.S. Navy. Again, these are Marines, about 2,200. The first Marines on the beach that will come in the large crafts will be Delta Company. They will lead the way on through to Macedonia. They are a team of about 110 men in that company, 75 from the Kearsarge, about 35 from the Ponce. They are described to us as having the most firepower and the best communication. The man who will command this mission, the U.S. Marine colonel who will command the mission, says we are going as peacekeepers, but we will go and enforce the peace if necessary. This team of Marines has firepower as well as the ability to do what it's there for, which is keep the peace. This landfall is expected to last perhaps about 2.5 days. I don't know if we have pictures from earlier of what these Marines would have faced had they come ashore about an hour and a half ago. Protesters, perhaps as many as 1,000 protesters, most of them members of the Greek Communist Party, were on the beach here. They kept vigil all night, and perhaps, Mark, I don't know if you're able to see, if we're back live, some of the banners that they erected on the beach. They were up yesterday. They were carrying banners, but Greek riot police came out here very, very early on and began to disperse the protesters. For a while, it seemed that there might be some confrontation. The riot police donned gas masks, but in the end, the protesters decided to move on back, and they are now well beyond our camera range. As we said, 3 ships out in the Aegean now, 3 U.S. ships. Different elements of this force will come from each of the ships. They'll marry up at this location, not here from, not far from where we are standing here now, and then begin the drive, the 175-mile drive, which is, as you can see from some of these vehicles, they're not going to make a lot of quick time with them. They'll then begin to make that drive on to Macedonia very rapidly, and then they are telling us also when they get to Macedonia, they will also be set up very rapidly and ready to move quickly into Kosovo if that's what they need. This is the Marine Force, the U.S. Marine Force. What they like to call themselves is the 911 force, the force that is most able to respond quickest. And so that is what they are preparing to do, whatever the mission is.
Now, presumably these forces now fall under NATO's joint command rather than just U.S. command.
Say that one more time. I'm sorry, sir.
Do these forces now fall under joint NATO command rather than U.S.?
So it'll take a while.
Jeff, now we can see this group landing at this particular beach in Greece. Do you know where the other American soldiers will be landing on their way to the peacekeeping force in Kosovo?
Well, I don't know for a fact all of the details of it, although I do understand that they will be coming from several different locations. In addition to this one, also, there is a significant U.S. force in Tirana, Albania, and of course there's a large airfield there.
It should be the Kearsarge, the amphibious assault ship that is holding these Marines there, the 26th Marine Expeditionary Unit. Jeff, how much equipment has gone off so far? Have you seen much come off?
Yeah, very little, Carl, very little. Just that one LCAC so far, and I think actually that is that's the Gunston Hall out there, and that appears to be another LCAC. I can't really see. Maybe you can see better there.
I can see there's an LCAC. Is it coming or going? Is it coming towards you?
Well, that's right. That one may be heading back. Maybe that is. I just got back here out on the beach, and so that may be the one heading back, although it looks like it's coming.
Tend to still use the Cobra from the Vietnam era, but they usually carry a few of those around to support the personnel who are on the ground. Don't know that that's the case here, but I would suspect, so that they can establish which way the wind is blowing. It may also have some other significance because it is colored, but one of the things it does is give them a look at which way the wind is blowing. It may also be a signal back to the ship that everything has gone okay. But primarily, they drop a
beach is not a tremendously large area, but now we can see why they were so eager to get those protesters off the beach, because the protesters were occupying a large area of this beach, and so obviously they needed as much space as they could. And once again, you see the full power of this thing coming ashore. This is the third one now that we've seen, one fully unloaded. The second that is on the beach is now in the process of being unloaded, and it is an interesting picture to see. This one just about to hit the shore, the other one moving off, and the killers go home sign. That's sort of the first welcome greeting that these U.S. personnel will see as they ride up on shore. Perhaps not the happiest greeting, but you know the Marines, they don't much care.
Well, they may care a little bit what people think about them, but it doesn't stop them from doing their job. I guess the Marines, like everybody else, would like to be loved, but It won't stop them from doing their job. Their assignment is to go in, and in fact, they're just past that. Now that's one of the laws.
And you live to tell about it too,
we
which
live
is
to tell
good.
about it. You know, we were all
here in Greece, and the same kind of protest that we saw earlier this morning, the chanting, the signs on the beach. There has been graffiti scrawled on the
Jeff, I just have to interrupt you again. I apologize.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're just wanting to welcome our viewers around the world to CNN's coverage. To viewers who might just be joining us, welcoming them to CNN's coverage of the landing of U.S. Marines on the Aegean coast of Greece. These Marines will be heading north through Greece into Macedonia and will become part of the peacekeeping force in Kosovo, or will at least